I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside, it's so comfortable, and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off road. The guy managed the group. He was like, "What are you doing in this beautiful car?" I'm like, "I'm going off road." He's like, "Are you sure? Because you can use one of ours." And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, "No, no, 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 we're going to do this." And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off-road ability as well as its robust interior are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, we believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show. Today on the James Altucher Show.
Welcome back to Sergey Young, who wrote the book, The Science and Technology of Growing Young. We talk specific advice about how to grow younger. Check it out. So the thymus disappears or starts to shrink after puberty.
Yeah.
Is there any results from way back when people were castrated sometimes at puberty? Did they live longer because their thymus maybe didn't disappear as quickly because of their castration?
That's a good question, James. Look, I'm not MD.
I'm thinking
right?
like a scientist.
Yeah. Look, I have 3 degrees, but I'm not a medical doctor or not.
And I was
biologist.
thrown out of graduate school.
Yeah, so I couldn't really say that. I also think it's related to some other things as well, because I think it's just lower hormonal volatility. I think it's gonna be about different. Your hormonal composition is different if you went through this kind of surgery. But again, this is just my wild guess. This is not exactly where I focus on.
What about these mythical stories about billionaires injecting the stem cells of 5-year-olds to kind of return their cells back to their younger existence? Is there any relevance to that? And I'm not trying to be sensationalist here. I'm just exploring every angle.
Okay, cool. So stem cells. I mean, it's a very powerful tool within regenerative medicine. So this is great, but I do think they're at the level of development which is too early for mass use. So I think it's a little bit above 10 stem cells interventions which are approved today by FDA for the whole US. So like majority of people whom I know go to stem cells clinic in Panama or in Bahamas or in Mexico. And I do think it's super promising technology and piece of science. I just don't think we're ready yet for the mass use of it, because we still need to test like what are the side effects, how we need to apply it in the more general situations. Imagine I'm in this field, right? So I had an offer to do stem cells ejection like many times. I've never done this. So I'm 49. I think I can survive on my longevity bridge by working on something which is available today. And then it's going to be stem cells revolution coming in 5 to 10 years. Human body is an extremely complex thing, right? If one silver bullet would exist, then either through science or through Mother Nature and evolution, we would then figure out the solution to that. So it's very likely to be combination of different interventions, different pieces of science, different technologies, which would extend our life. It's not going to be one single thing, whether it's stem cells or gene therapy or organ regeneration or longevity in a pill.
Right. And then before I get to the next generation of what you talk about, where we talk about, almost science fiction related things, there's one thing I noticed I don't believe you mentioned it in the book, which is fecal matter transplants. So there's been studies on rats or mice or whatever, where taking essentially the shit of one mouse and inserting it in another mouse gives the second mouse some of the qualities, including the youth of the original mouse. I believe this research has been done. I don't really know that much about it. Is there anything to that?
Okay, so I'm just thinking, where do I start? And I want
you can
to
start by saying you are completely insane.
No, you're not. Look, so number one, the role of microbiome, and it's basically all the organisms which live inside our gut, is super important, not only for our immune system, but for our overall health. Okay? So that's the thing. So whatever we can do to influence in a positive way our microbiome is good. Okay? That's one. Two, I think in terms of how healthy the microbiome of the modern human being, because of the industrial food, because of a lot of processed food, because of a lot of sugary drinks that we take, we actually doing very bad job for our gut and its ability to process the food and support our immune system and our overall health. So we are fundamentally less healthy than our predecessors, who's been able to eat organic food and therefore had much healthier level of microbiome and the way their gut works. So that's two. Third, there's a number of diseases of very fundamental nature, and they're usually pretty rare, where you basically will be unable to reinstall a healthy level of all these beautiful bacteria living in your gut for you to healthy process the food. So in this case, doctors find it easy to prescribe this procedure when you can basically really piggyback on microbiome, on all this bacterial composition taken from the gut of the other person in a form of fecal transplantation. But this is very narrow thing. So you need to have very particular medical conditions where you will not be able in a meaningful time to restore your microbiome and in the normal work of your gut. So this
what about for longevity though?
Well, I think we have plenty of opportunities to reinstall and support our healthy level of microbiome and its ability to process food and support our immune system. It's all about fiber. It's all about plants. It's all about taking probiotics or prebiotics. It's all about taking either window fasting or fasting when your gut can actually process all the food in the due terms. So I don't think there's anything fundamental which fecal transplantation can offer to general public. This is very niche intervention used in very specific and I would say difficult cases. We have more natural ways to take care of our gut health, and diversity of the plants and vegetables that we take is a good way to address it for a normal person.
Taking it now one step further, you talk about do-it-yourself diagnosis. There's a lot of starting with things like the Fitbit, which tells you, how many steps you walk and what your heart rate is and things like that. Diagnosis using digital and AI means is going to get more and more sophisticated so that diseases that remain undetected, sometimes for decades, could be detected day by day. And, the prevention is the cure, as they say. And so one of the ways we can improve our lifespan is through this very sophisticated digital analysis ongoing on a daily basis, on a minute-by-minute basis of our system.
Yeah.
And how far are we away from that? Like we're already, as you mentioned in the book, we're already swallowing robots that could check out our intestines and so on.
Okay, so James, is it a question about wearables or about the overall level of like medical devices and technology?
Overall level, like where are we at? What can we do?
So our model of diagnostics so far was like once a quarter or once a year. We just come to the hospital and we do annual checkup. While it's important and it's just a lot of development happening there. Like you can do like full body MRI, some other checkup things, and you kind of find you tick all the boxes and you will be able to find a cancer or heart disease risk at extremely early stage. So that's actually your recovery rates for cancer will be 93 to 100%. And this is cancer, right? Remember, it was keys of that 20 years ago. While this is important, we're moving to the field of DIY diagnostic, right? That means that we're going to have plenty of wearables and sensors. I call it Internet of Body, which will help you and your doctor and artificial intelligence responsible for your health and health of other citizens to define if you have early risks of these killer diseases like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, neurodegenerative disease as well. So where this whole thing started with wearables, whether it's Apple Watch, Fitbit, Whoop, it does not matter. It's up to you what to take. You can even take Samsung Watch. And then we have this paradigm that let's say Apple Watch, for example, it's just a thing which counts our steps. It's not anymore. It's personalized healthcare devices. A recent version of Apple Watch, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other wearables, can take electrocardiogram. So my good friend, his doctor, he was like, I think it was back in 2019, on 5 flights, he's been called to help the other passenger right in the air. He just took out his Apple Watch and took electrocardiogram to make sure that whatever is happening with this person, it's not heart disease risk, okay? Then you fall down on the street, which is particularly relevant for older people. It can call an ambulance for you, or I don't know, your son or daughter or whomever is helping you with that. And right now, I think we just need to add one heart rate variability, your sleep cycles. This is all very important to create feedback loop on your health. So with 2 features which will be added to this in the next year or 2, one is ability to measure your blood pressure, and the other one is to measure your level of glucose in your blood. I think every wearable who will have this ability, and like I know Apple is working on that, Samsung is working on that, I'm pretty sure Google and Fitbit is working on that. This is like 90% of the data that you need to collect real time, which will help you and help us to identify health problems at very early stage. And prevention is like super efficient. Remember, recovery rates 90 to 100% for stage 1 cancer, depending on its cancer type, to 20 to 30% for stage 4 cancer. The same in terms of prevention of heart disease. So it's just going to be amazing, completely different world. And it's 10 to 20 times cheaper to prevent disease at this early stage than to respond on this in emergency mode. So it's not going to be just good for us. It's going to be great for the whole planet and our extremely expensive and inefficient healthcare system in the US.
Right. And as you mentioned, even in the beginning of the book, rule number 1, don't die. And we already know the leading causes of death: heart disease, cancer, strokes, Alzheimer's, diabetes. Not that all of these things are preventable, but they're postponable if by early diagnosis. And I just wonder why more people, like for instance, we know that cigarette smoking leads to many of these things.
Yeah.
I wonder why more people just don't stop smoking, knowing that it'll probably add a good 10 years to their life because they'll have less chance for heart disease, cancer, stroke, Alzheimer's.
Yeah, I'm always wondering, and my father is an example. He had a lung cancer back in 2005. He survived, but man shrunk in size by 1/3. You know what? He's still smoking. And this is father of Sergey Young, of, longevity enthusiast. Yeah, I still can really figure out why is that. But my guess is the following. And by the way, tobacco smoking is like statistically minus 10 years from your lifespan. It's almost guaranteed. So what do I think? It's a little bit, it's the same answer to the question why governments are not taking care of our health to the level it needs to be. And we learned, or government learned, to deal with something which is important and urgent. The problem with health, it's always important, but it's never urgent, with the exception of COVID, by the way. So you always have this temptation to focus on urgent and important things, but you just delay this whole kind of health thing. And remember, I don't know about you, but like even in my case, I have some important health procedure for next month, and I'm like, well, this is summer. I don't want to do it. I'll just move it to autumn, blah, blah, blah. So again, and the unfortunate reality, like 80% of the people whom I know started their path to healthy living and changes in taking back control of their health with a wake-up call. And a wake-up call is significant deterioration, usually one time, in a shocking way, of their own health or health of their loved ones. That's unfortunate reality. We need to respond to the negative shock, and this is when we start to work on our health.
The final kind of aspect of this is very futuristic.
Yeah.
But the idea of kind of taking what makes us us, whether and this gets into philosophical issues, is our consciousness in our brain cells and so on, but put it into another shell as opposed to this body and keep moving it from shell to shell so that we essentially, our personality, our consciousness lives forever. Is that science fiction? And of course, science fiction has a tendency to predict the future, as we know. H.G. Wells had rockets go into the moon, 90 years before they did. So what's the story with that, you think?
Great. This is actually very interesting and counterintuitive for me. So when we started Longevity Vision Fund, I really wanted to invest in robotic avatars, in human avatars, because I thought, well, this is technology of the future, and we need to have a little exposure from investment perspective to this project. So we look at 3 robotic avatars projects, and we said no to all of them. We even look at the project of Dr. Sasumi Tachi, the guy, his professor in Japan, who invented human avatar concept back in 1980. We went so far. And the problem is that our material representation in the form of robotic avatars is very expensive. So what we found that it's much easier to replicate ourselves in the virtual world rather than to work on robotic representation of us. And that's for me was pretty disappointing because I like living in the real world, right? I'm a material guy, and I would hate just to be like a number of ones and zeros in a computer. Having said that, I think the development of the virtual reality and computing power, which give us the opportunity to recreate ourselves in the virtual world, and even like to do backup of our mind, is going with enormous speed. And I know quite a few very famous people who are working on their virtual avatars to replace themselves. So for example, like let's take me. My resolution for next year is, actually to find a country to implement national longevity program to change life of all population in the country for them to be able to live longer. And second, to create my virtual avatar, because I'm having so many requests for speaking and I want to spread my word, because my mission to change 1 billion lives. So I actually need the help in the form of virtual avatar. So this is how far it can go.
But what do you mean by a virtual avatar? Will it be you or just something like you?
Yes, it's just something like me, because 99.9% of questions that I'm asked, they are of the similar nature. They're not similar. People going from different perspective, right? They have their own audience of one or their own audience of millions. But in the end of the day, to recreate a version of Sergey Young who can handle 99% of our conversation today, I think we can do it in the next 3 to 5 years. And this will help me to be more efficient with my mission. But I don't want to move there in the virtual world. But like in some of the applications of virtual avatars, people hate the idea of just recreating themselves in the virtual world. It can be very helpful. Like my grandfather made a very important impact on who I am. He died back in 1996. I would still love to have an opportunity to have a chat with him for 30 or 60 minutes every month, right? With virtual avatar of my grandfather. So just drawing to the wisdom of previous generation might be one of the kind of good use of it.
Potentially AI can be used for this right now. So like, you've seen these text generation engines like GPT-3 at open.ai. You could feed in all of your writings. It could learn from those, and potentially you could have a virtual you. It would be very, at least in opinion and voice, it would be similar to you.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm planning to do.
Oh my gosh, I love these clothes. Mizzen and Main, that's Mizzen and Main. It really is the most comfortable work clothes. Travel clothes. I had to travel this whole week. I'm traveling for a week and a half, and I just took Mizzen and Main clothes with me. Close out 2023 in style with comfortable, breathable, packable, and machine washable pieces from Mizzen and Main. As you wrap up your year-end goals, enjoy a Mizzen and Main dress shirt that you can wear confidently. I like that they've very, very just nice, solid colors. I don't really like to get all fancy in patterns and everything, although they do have some pattern shirts, but very comfortable clothes, stretchable pants. It's just super comfortable, but they look professional, and you can wear them casually or professionally. I like some of their flannel shirts or untuck shirts. I love untuck. I never tuck in. So again, whether you're shopping for a special someone or giving yourself the gift you really want, I just buy myself gifts. Mizzen and Main is the perfect gift for any guy who works, travels, and cares about looking and feeling great. As you could tell by my many photos across the internet, I care about looking fantastic. I'm practically a model. And let's be honest, every guy loves to look great. So again, shop now at mizzenandmain.com and save 20% when you spend $130 or more using promo code James. That's promo code James at Mizzen and Main, Mizzen and Main.com. You know what I love about fantasy sports is that even though I'm not going to be a great basketball player or a baseball player or a football player or whatever, I feel like I get to participate and make decisions and use my knowledge of these different leagues or these different sports to compete. So it's like I can pick my team or I can pick my favorite players, and I could use my knowledge to make predictions and maybe even make money. So with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League on Prize Picks. This is a league created specifically for combo projections that include two or more players from different sports or leagues. Want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, who's also been a guest on this podcast, and I've been a guest on his. You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries for some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Look, Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. What? So I love playing it. I love anywhere where I can use analytical ability with my interests to demonstrate some skill and maybe make some money. And I like the game-like aspect. I do wish they had chess as a category on prizepicks.com, but I'll settle for what they've got. Maybe I should make my own fantasy chess league. But in any case, I love Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/James. Use code James for a first deposit match up to $100. That's the easiest $100 you're ever going to make. So that's prizepicks.com/James and use code James. Daily fantasy sports made easy. The future of learning is definitely online. Like, it's such BS that you have to spend $200,000 or take $200,000 in loans and go to some fancy school when it's useless. It doesn't guarantee you a job. Most employers, including me, do not care about degrees or grades or anything like that. We want to care that you love what you're doing, that you know what you're doing, in some cases that you have experience or that you're willing to learn. But people in general love learning and are curious. Like, the key to success is curiosity. And I think masterclass.com is the perfect model for online learning. I'm really happy they're sponsoring this episode. If you're going to give a gift, give the gift of learning. Masterclass makes a meaningful gift this season for you and anyone on your list, because both of you can learn from the best to become your best, from leadership to effective communication to cooking. Let me tell you some of the classes I've taken. I've taken comedy from Steve Martin. I mean, can you believe I can take a class from Steve Martin on comedy, or Judd Apatow, my favorite comedy director? I could take an actual class from him on writing. Wolfgang Puck on cooking. Dan Brown on writing, or Judy Bloom, who's been on this podcast, on writing. By the way, Wolfgang Puck also has been on this podcast. It's such a pleasure. I try to take classes all the time from masterclass.com. And whether you're watching Masterclass on TV or listening in audio mode in the app or on their site, the quality speaks for itself. It's like these Masterclass instructors are your own personal mentors that are going to help you reach the next level. How much would it cost to take one-on-one classes on comedy from Steve Martin or on chess from Gary Kasparov? You just wouldn't be able to do it. But it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. With a Masterclass annual membership, it's $10 a month. Memberships start at $120 a year for unlimited access to one-on-one classes with all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. So it's not just $120 for one instructor. You get all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. Boost your confidence and find practical takeaways you can apply to your life and at work. And if you own a business or are a team leader, use Masterclass to empower and create future-ready employees and leaders. That's the real education in today's world. So this holiday season, you can give one annual membership and get one free at masterclass.com/JAS. JAS, of course, stands for the James Altucher Show. So right now you can get two memberships for the price of one at masterclass.com/JAS. Masterclass.com/JAS. Offer terms apply. Let me pitch this idea to you. Let's say you could go into a virtual reality, using Oculus or some VR headset, and the virtual reality is so good, it seems exactly like the world you're in right now. But so you're in a virtual reality, but you don't care because it's exactly, you feel everything, you see everything exactly as you see things now. But meanwhile, in the quote unquote real world, your body is just hooked up to a bunch of machines being tended to by doctors or AI. So it's doing all the diagnosis. It's feeding you all the medicines you might need. It's feeding you food. It's getting rid of waste. It's taking care of you so you could live a longer life while you enjoy the life of the very realistic virtual reality. Would you do that?
No, of course not.
But you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the VR you're in and the real world. I'm assuming that the state of VR moves ahead a few generations.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Even like with the current state of VR, I know people who said like after the first minute or two in the virtual reality, even if this is like suboptimal representation of reality, you completely lose the sense of like where you are.
Right. That's a known thing. The brain realizes,
Yeah.
oh, this is not what I thought it was, and it starts to feel nauseous.
Yeah.
I've given talks in virtual realities, and you really do feel sick after about a half hour.
Yeah.
For me, it was about a half hour.
Yeah, I'll just stick to the real world.
What if the VR is exactly like the real world? And this is sort of the simulation hypothesis that any advanced civilization, let's say 1 billion years old,
Yeah.
can clearly create a virtual world as real as this one. We might already be in such a VR and living somewhere else.
Yeah, I will not be able
reality.
because the virtual reality will be completely will look like a real world. I will not be able to tell the difference. So look, I'm very traditional man in this regard. I like real world, and I'd like to stay it. And I also think that even in the next couple of decades, we'll be able to discover a lot of technologies which would not require us to live in virtual reality to live much, much longer. I'm actually waiting. I call it Horizon 3 of longevity. It's called Far Horizon of Longevity in the book. I'm waiting for this with combination of excitement, but also fear.
On a slightly different but related subject, how can we reverse the effects of aging, if there are any, on the brain? So a common theory or myth, I'm not sure which, says that young people can memorize faster, can calculate faster. Many mathematical prodigies hit their peak even in their early 20s.
Yeah.
Is this true? Is this reversible?
Think about the reasons for that after we turn 50. It's cancer, heart disease, diabetes, neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer. The problem is that we don't know a lot about neurodegenerative diseases. And the issue is that while people facing cancer and heart disease roughly in the age of 60, obviously with slight deviations, and that's why we know a lot about heart disease. That's why we know a lot about cancer. We're just breaking this barrier to increase our lifespan. The problem is neurodegenerative diseases catch us at much later stage of our life, somewhere between 70 and 80 years old. So from evolution of science and technology perspective, we still haven't reached this barrier because this with average lifespan of 75 to 85 years old in the world, we're still reaching this barrier because we're having more and more people living longer. And now we're facing neurodegenerative diseases in completely different scale.
But it's not just a new neurodegenerative disease. And I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
It's also like you're 49, I'm 53. I bet you, at the end of the day, you have problems sometimes remembering what you did that day.
Sure.
Just like I do.
Sure.
And as a kid, we never had those problems. In fact, I could still remember what I did every day as a kid.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what I did yesterday.
Yeah.
So we're not, these aren't neurodegenerative diseases. This seems to be, and people just accept this as a matter of cognitive decline as a matter of aging.
Yeah.
But is it true, or are we just dispersed with responsibility so it's harder, or is it something that could be reversed?
So what do I think? Again, the evolution of the brain through our lifespan is still pretty unknown territory to evolution of other organs inside our body because it's like super complex, right?
Yes.
So what do I think? I do think it's part of the aging process, and after age of 25, and especially it's accelerate after you turn 40. Aging process starts in your body, and degradation of your brain and your mental capabilities is the fact. How are we gonna solve it? Again, I'm speaking to you not as someone who specialized from biology point of view, but as an investor, I think much more promising technology, which will help us to solve that, is human brain AI integration, or this brain computer integration thing, similar to what Elon Musk does. And the first people which are going to use it is the people who are actually suffering from neurodegenerative diseases at later stage in their life. So like, I don't know if you've seen the movie called The Father, right? It's pretty recent.
Mm-hmm.
It's done by the eyes of the person who's suffering from neurodegenerative disease. I mean, it's really awful. It's a very sad movie. So what's going to happen? I think, and Elon does talk about this. So we're going to use human brain AI integration in the field of high performance, high responsibility jobs. But moreover, we're going to help people in very late stage of their life suffering from neurodegenerative decline or disease to supplement their brain. And if you think about in terms of like what will fundamentally help us to compensate this degradation of our mental abilities is this approach.
That's like a first generation of it. But let's say I don't want to have the cognitive decline and then just be supplemented by an external factor like the Neuralink that Elon Musk is working on. What if I want to reverse the cognitive decline? And when I say I mean society, like everybody, nobody wants to have it. Is there a reason why I have to suffer through cognitive decline? Is that reversible?
There's only evolutionary reason. After you, I mean, if you think about our purpose from evolutional perspective, I mean, we grow it up, we reproduce, and we've done. We transfer the wisdom to a certain extent, and we've done. So there's huge evolutionary reason why our body we genetically predisposed to go through aging process and die, because we were grown in the context of limited resources and limited usefulness of the person after he or she done his reproductive function. So, I mean, you can obviously influence that, like just sleeping well will decrease your risk of cognitive decline and suffering from Alzheimer's disease by 40%, 40. So but this is all lifestyle interventions, right? We don't have a drug today, like a medicine or intervention, which will help you to reverse that. And it's been the case so far. And that's why I'm so optimistic about next inventions and next discoveries in science and technology in the next 10 to 20 years, because our aim is not to slow down the aging. Like what you can do today with your mental ability and decline of that is slow this down through certain interventions or lifestyle changes. We want to reverse that. And it obviously requires to work on completely different level, like genetic level as well, or augmenting ourselves with artificial intelligence or computer.
This is great, Sergey. I mean, you've answered so many of my questions, both relevant and insane, and I appreciate you putting up with me. Now, tell me, what supplements do you currently take?
Good. So I take omega-3 because I have very high cholesterol level, and I've seen a lot of studies that omega-3 is just great in terms of prevention of heart disease, and as well as your cognitive decline as well. So that's super important. I'm a big fan of seaweeds, and partly because I draw my aspiration for longevity from Japan. So combination of omega-3 and seaweeds is great. I take NMN because there's so many of my friends in longevity field, big fan of it. I'm there. Sometimes what I do, I'm a big fan of supplements. So what I do, I just experiment with one for 1 month, and then I take a break for 5 months. So this is what I do. Like, so my supplements of this month is like flaxseed oil. It's another oil supplementation that I take. Is milk thistle. It's very good for my liver health. And remember, I have high cholesterol. I need to support it. I just done my annual checkup. My liver health is like top 1% quartile because of my diet and because of this and some other supplements that I take. I'm a big fan of ginger and curcumin. because it's been used in many cultures to prevent aging and for people to influence their health in a positive way. In terms of my mental health and mental capacity, I'm big fan of ginkgo biloba, and this is what I take on a regular basis. I've been to Shaolin Monastery in China, and they big fans of this tree and these supplements as well. So I do think it's actually very helpful in terms of supporting our brain health. Yeah, that's probably it, what I can recall.
You mentioned probiotics and prebiotics. Do you take those?
Not very frequently. Like I just do like 1 month course, and then just wait for 3 or 4 months, because I don't want to supplement my body all the time with supplements, because I'd like my body to rely on its own ability to support my hormonal balance and my nutritional balance and my microbiome as well. So I do that. But like the best way to support that, the work of our gut is just eat fiber and plants and vegetables. This can be as powerful as taking prebiotics or anything else.
Are you a vegetarian?
No, I'm not. I'm not religious about this. I eat meat and fish, but I'm really selective. What do I eat? It's usually once a week, and it should be like super organic meat from the source that I trust, with no antibiotics, E. coli bacteria, with no growth hormones, and it should be wild fish, taken from the sea or from the ocean, so I can really be sure about how safe is that for my body. But I'm really heavy on vegetables. I love, as I call, rainbow of vegetables. I'm trying to recreate all these different colors and taking this. I have a lot of vegetarian friends. Just look at their skin and level of energy. So I'm jealous about how they look and how they feel. But with my travel profile and my speaking profile and with my longevity mission, it's just very difficult to have balanced diet if I'm vegetarian.
For probiotics, do you make sure they get shipped to you frozen? Do you buy it special, or do you just go to the store and get probiotics?
It's both. So I can buy like a Solgar and a room temperature, and sometimes it's more like a dairy product, fermented, and then I store it in a fridge.
Okay, and then in terms of a lot of the things we talked about, you mentioned how you would rather not experiment, but it's only 5 or 10 years before we really see which technologies could make significant improvements to our anti-aging abilities. What's the first 1 or 2 things that you're waiting to see that excites you, that you think you'll be able to take personally?
Great question. First of all, as soon as longevity drug will be approved, I will take whether it's going to be metformin, rapamycin, or something invented by artificial intelligence. I will take that, because drugs is our default mode for addressing the problems with our health. So I'd be really happy to take it. Or if this is not going to be invented until I will turn 60, which is in 11 years from now, I'll just see my doctor and will ask for metformin. So that's one thing. Second thing, I'm not sure I'm going to be experimenting a lot soon with gene editing, because it's still, we don't know what we don't know. Human DNA is extremely complex thing with a lot of side effects, which are unexpected or very long term. But regenerative medicine as a field can be really super promising. So I'm talking about stem cells whenever they're going to be approved. And I'm talking about organ regeneration or organ supplementation whenever they will be approved and will be available.
What about the Yamanaka factors?
So basically, as soon as this gonna be used, well, it's just the other field of gene therapy, right? So as soon as they're gonna be approved for mass use, and it's gonna be drug or intervention, which will be available to me, I will always obviously enjoy it. But remember my earlier point on using gene editing, gene therapy, always genomic medicine field. I don't expect that society and regulators will be comfortable with offering this to general public, and I consider myself as a part of general public. I don't want to experiment anytime soon. So it's just 10, probably even 20 years from now.
And finally, and I promise this is the finally, you're in charge of an investment fund that invests in longevity related companies. You raised, I believe, about $100 million.
Yeah.
How did you do that? You weren't a doctor, you weren't an investor. Like, who gave you $100 million to invest in these companies, and what sort of companies are you investing in right now?
Yeah, so I'm an investor in private equity and venture capital for the last 20 years. But I was investing in the old style, as I call, boring industry. I love them, but people find it conservative, like transportation and logistics, real estate development, food retail, etc. So I had my investment expertise before that, and I'm managing and I'm managing a few $1 billion already. This is not my money, right? This is money of other people who trust me. So when I, as Aubrey de Grey says, caught my longevity virus a few years ago, I just reach out to the guys and say, guys, there's this new thing developing. I don't know whether we will make money there or not, but number one, we'll obviously have a chance to make a world a better place. Second, you'll have early access to what is happening in the world of longevity. And third, we might be able to make some money. I don't know. I can't really guarantee. So if you're up for these three areas of our focus and these three ideas, well, let's just do a small longevity vision fund. I thought it's going to be 50 million fund, but I raised my first 50 million in the first 5 minutes. So it's insecure overachiever. I thought, okay, I need to raise the bar. So I was just then raising 100 million, not 50. But obviously it's all the outcome of my trusted relationship with a lot of people who invest with me for many years from US and Europe. Well, in the last, it's almost like the outcome of last 20 years of my work. So that's about fundraising. Where do we invest? We took intentionally broad definition of longevity. So whatever increased the average health span and lifespan of the world, we call it longevity. So we invest in a lot of biotech companies who has one positive side effect, improving human health and increasing our health span and lifespan. So it's a broad, right now we have 16 companies, and it's a very broad range from early diagnostic, like early cancer diagnostic in the form of Freenome, affordable diagnostic devices like echo imaging, which created the ultrasound diagnostic device with cost of $2,000, not $100,000 like we have today. Organ regeneration companies like Genesis. This is the company from Pittsburgh, which use our lymph nodes to regrow liver and thymus. And they have a pipeline of more organs to regenerate. We didn't invest in human avatars, as I told you, and we're a big fan of gene therapy and gene editing technologies. A substantial part of our portfolio is platform technologies. Like we invested in company which has the one of the biggest library of different viral vectors, and this is the means how you can do gene therapy for humans. I don't know if this answers your question. Yeah, we're looking at 200 companies a year. It is just amazing. I can spend hours in these labs and with these entrepreneurs.
Yeah, no, it's all very interesting. I'm always just curious about how people get their start and make these decisions and so on. Well, Sergey Young, author of The Science and Technology of Growing Young. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And again, I know I just threw a ton of questions at you, but this is a fascinating subject, and I've had quite a few podcasts on this topic. I have some knowledge, not as much as you, and I really enjoyed reading your book. It really kind of filled in a lot of the holes in my knowledge, and it's such an expansive book covering everything from what's available now, what's available tomorrow, what's available in the future, and you deal with the kind of philosophies of anti-aging and so on. It's a great read. It's very informative. It gives me hope for my own future and hopefully for the future of our listeners here. And I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and good luck with, I hope all your investments are a success, not only for your sake, but for mine.
Thank you. Thanks, James. And thanks to everyone in the audience. Stay healthy and happy, please.
Yes.
Entresto, sacubitril valsartan tablets, is the #1 heart failure brand prescribed by cardiologists and has helped over 1 million people with heart failure. It's a prescription medicine that treats adults with long-lasting chronic heart failure and works better when the heart cannot pump a normal amount of blood to the body.
Don't take Entresto if pregnant. It can cause harm or death to an unborn baby. Don't take Entresto with an ACE inhibitor or aliskiren, or if you've had angioedema with an ACE or ARB. Don't take with aliskiren or within 36 hours of taking an ACE inhibitor. The most serious side effects are angioedema, low blood pressure, kidney problems, or high blood potassium. Angioedema is swelling of your face, lips, tongue, and throat that may cause death. If it causes difficulty breathing, get emergency help.
Ask your doctor about Entresto. To learn more, visit support.entresto.com or call 833-446-6699. For pricing, visit Entresto.com/cost. If you can't afford your medication, Novartis may be able to help.